what are like some of the key changes in ISO 27001 that was very recently published in October. Right, so so far most of the certifying bodies, they were using 2013 version of ISO 27000 manual to certify you. So usually that certification goes for about 3-year period, and then like again you will get recertified, and that's how like you maintain that ISO 27001 certification. So now going forward, we are required to follow ISO 27001 2022 version. So what does that really mean? We have more detailed slides in terms of what are the major changes between 2013 and 2022. So there are of course some major changes, but it's not like totally different. There are, I would say, about 70 to 80% of the information that are in 2013 has been carried over to 2022. This is again, the approximate number. But then like there are some new controls and new processes and things that are introduced as part of 2022 version, which we will review very quickly, right? So, so what does it really mean for you in terms of these revisions and the certification, right? So we are still allowed to certify you as an organization. Let's say you are trying to get certified for ISO 27001 today. So we can still certify you based on the 2013 version. So you don't need to use the 2022 version that is released. And now our accreditation agency, they are going through a transition assessment. That's what they call it. Like whenever revision has been announced, so they will kind of standardize some of this process and then provide us more guidance. That's what we would use for 2022. So essentially, if you come to us today and if you want to get certified in ISO 27001 2022 standard, that is not available yet. Right, so we will still use the 2013 version to do the certification. Of course, you could do the transition as published by the ISO guidelines for us. So we can still use the 2013 version technically until 2025, October 21, 2025, to do the transition. So we can continue. After that, it's going to be discontinued. So that means we can use only 2022 version from October 21, 2025 onwards. Again, I know technically it might get a little bit complicated for your particular scenario. As Aditi mentioned, feel free to email us if you have any question in terms of your particular scenario. Okay, so this kind of gives you the high-level picture in terms of of what has changed in the 2013 versus 2022. As you could see, the number of classes, that hasn't changed. That still remains the same. 11 classes, main classes in 2013, and 11 in 2022. So you all know security is a big deal. Now the things change and the threat landscape changes, and the controls obviously need to change. So ISO, they've reduced the number of controls from 114 to 93. This is the Annex A reference. Actually, we have two reference manuals, 27001 and 27002. 27002 is the one that has all the annex controls, essentially some of the control that we need to use to audit you against all the controls that you have in place. So that has, the number of controls have reduced, but that doesn't mean the work has reduced, or like the effort that is going to require to implement some of these controls have changed, right? So that, in fact, in my opinion, it's going to be a little bit more. We have another slide that talks about the controls that have changed. We will discuss that in detail. And then the number of sections within Annex A, like they kind of consolidated that into 4 from 14. And so that is at a very high level, right? So what is that like? You need to know, maybe diving deep into this one. So they've introduced 11 new controls. Going back to this earlier slide, right, the 93 that we are talking about here. So what they've done is they've introduced 11 new controls. I have that listed in the next slide. And then they also, what they did is they merged certain controls, because some of them, if you see, there is some kind of redundancy in terms of the control that we would be testing. For example, the log monitoring of your systems, and then also your networking device and stuff. Some of these things might be redundant. So what they've done is they merged these controls, and then they also split, actually just only one control, and then they've just renamed a few controls, and then there are this 35 control that remains unchanged. Although, as I said, like about 70 to 80% of them kind of remains the same. That means the main focus is going to be for you is this 11 new controls that they have introduced, right? So as you could see here, these are like really heavy topics: threat intelligence, and then the security for cloud services that you are implementing, especially with the AWS as your shared responsibility model, and then your business continuity and the readiness of your disaster recovery systems, and then your physical security monitoring. All of these things that are listed here, those are like, I think, going to be the new control that your implementation partner and also your certifying audit company is going to be looking at it. So as you could see here, data masking, you all know the issues with data masking. If you are maintaining multiple environments within your IT, you make a copy of your production into development and stage without really masking the production data, right? So that is actually a kind of a mandatory requirement now. So if you have multiple environment of the production, then as auditor, we want to see you have the data masking control in place, right? And then DLP, again, is a big thing, data leakage prevention. I think Gert has a slide where he's probably going to be talking in detail about some of these things as well. And then secure coding. They didn't have any specific requirements on secure coding earlier, so they have brought in the requirements on secure coding. Just in the interest of time, I'm not going to be individually going over each one of these new security controls. However, what you could do though is, you could just go to ISO.org and purchase this ISO 27001 manual and 27002, both of them, right? That has got more detailed description of what is the control, or what is the expectation, and what is that they want to see as part of the implementation and certification and stuff.